The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, where we widen love's circle by honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all. We extend a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. Buenos días y bienvenidos a esta comunidad donde ampliamos el círculo del amor, honrando el valor y la dignidad inherentes de todos. We greet all those who join us this morning. We hope those watching the live stream will fill out the online attendance form and refer to the many announcements in the online order of service. We ask those here to take a moment after the service and introduce yourself to someone you don't know. The Reverend Dan King, our Reverend Emeritus, is here filling in for Reverend Bosson because he's trapped somewhere because of the Microsoft problem on his way home. And please remember that at 1 p.m. today, the church is having a special congregational meeting to decide on the purchase of the parking lot property. Please join us and cast your ballot. Absentee ballots are available if you cannot be here. We need a quorum of 50 people, so you got to vote one way or another. And now, would you join us with Dr. Rock for our first hymn?
I just have to say, Reverend Colin is not stuck in cyberspace. He is actually in New York, but we have spoken, well, we've texted, because text is working. At any rate, so we've texted, and he's doing okay. He just got delayed and caught up in all of the airline flights being canceled, so we didn't have him here today. So anyway, I'd like for you to open up your hymnals to number 1018. Come and go with me. Please rise in body or spirit as we join our voices in song.
Thank you all. It's great for me to be back with you again 2 weeks in a row. Lucky me. Our opening reading this morning for Call to Worship is from Maria Mitchell, an astronomy and Harvard professor and Unitarian Universalist. Our whole system. Small as is our whole system compared with the infinitude of creation, Brief as is our life compared with the cycles of long time, we are so tethered to all by the beautiful dependencies of law that not only the sparrow's fall is felt to the uttermost bound, but the vibration set in motion by the words that we utter can reach through all space, and the tremor is felt through all time. An awesome responsibility.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, encendiendo esta luz.
Please join me in reading the words to our congregational covenant printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of our congregation. Service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to encourage one another. Thus do we covenant.
I was very much looking forward to taking Reverend Colin through the Inquisition with the question box sermon, but that won't be happening today. We have a different sermon, and that's fine. We have adjusted. But right now, it's time for our young people to go to religious education. So for all of you, we are so ready to sing our song to you because we love you so much. So you all can go and head out to Mr. Naylor, who's in the back waiting for you. As you go, rejoice around you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
Thank you, Dr. Rock. I want to open our time for meditation with a reading, a poem by a colleague who is no longer with us, Dorothy Baruch, who briefly served a congregation I served in Massachusetts. It's called Divinity. It comes to me when I am most creative, when I am thinking things and doing things that reach beyond myself, not knowing, only hoping, dreaming, wanting revelations to connect, to support and nourish. And when the energy surges up and lifts me toward the light into space, where sparks ignite and inspiration crackles from the brain into the heart and back, then everything round me sings. The Spirit speaks and lives, and I am filled with wonder as the beauty of this place we call the world. My gratitude knows no bounds. My life is full, and I am blessed beyond all sense of self or separateness. I am the world and all that is within it, and I bless the holy grace by which all of us live, and all things are living. Dorothy Baruch. I would invite us to share some moments of embracing meditation, some time of silence, and then we will ask for those who have others on their hearts this morning, names they would like to speak into this embracing congregation. And first, meditation, prayer, silence. And now we invite those who have names on their hearts to share into this embracing congregation. And if we could respond together from the words that are in your order of service, this is my prayer.
In the quiet of this place, let this moment fill with grace. This is my prayer. This is my prayer.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles of the world. This week, we are donating to the Forgotten Third. This morning, we welcome Carlton Harris to tell us more about it.
Good morning. The Forgotten Third is a nonprofit organization that serves at-risk and underserved youth in Harris County. Our organization was founded in June of 2021. We accepted our first referral into our program in April of 2022. We've partnered with Harris County Juvenile Probation Department, where we look at high-risk young adults of reoffending and recidivating back into the justice system. Our core program is the RESET program. RESET stands for relationships, where we work on credible messenger mentoring. The E stands for education, where we prioritize them completing high school and or obtaining their GED. And secondly, going into post-secondary educational opportunities, where we encourage them to get some type of certification in either welding, forklifting, HVAC, where they can make a meaningful wage. The S stands for skills building, where we want them to get communication skills, life skills, and help them build up the skills that they need necessary in order to become successful. The second E stands for employment and entrepreneurship program. We have an entrepreneurship program where they learn how to make t-shirts, hats, and how to create logos and make their own clothing brand, as well as a work-based learning program where they come into our office and they work in our office for 12 weeks. They earn $15 an hour for 20 hours a week. During that time frame, they can earn up to $3,000. It's actually $3,600, but they get taxes taken out. So it's about $3,000 for them to be able to pursue any other post-secondary education opportunity that they want, and that's through our partnership with Workforce Solution. And the T stands for training. We most definitely want to make sure that they get all the training necessary so that they can become law-abiding citizens. We take a public health approach to violence prevention. So we define the problem, we identify risk and protective factors, we test those strategies, and then we assure widespread adoption. We currently have 4 different programs. One program is in Harris County Youth Village, where we work with them to transform their mindset while they're in placement. Then there's a continuum of that. Once they are released from the institution, they now can come to our community-based program, which is the RESET program that I just described. Secondly, we have a partnership with UT Health Houston, where we work with Hospital Violence Intervention Program, where we provide credible messenger mentoring to gunshot victims so we can prevent retaliation and the reoccurrence of violence. Thirdly, we have a partnership with Common Justice, which is an organization out of New York, where we work on restorative justice and restorative practices, where we bring the victim and the perpetrator together so that they can have a meaningful conversation and work on reconciliation. And last but not least, we have a program with NIJ. NIJ is also a credible messenger program where we're doing research in the community to see what is effective. Overall, last year we had 40 participants in our community-based program. Of those 40 participants, only 3 recidivated and either had a violation of probation or a new offense. So currently our recidivism rate is 7.5%. Thank you. And last, I'll just read off some more data. We had 40 enrolled. We still have 25 currently enrolled. 15 have been through our work-based learning program, and we've also helped them obtain jobs. We still have 25 currently enrolled. We've had 15 to successfully complete their probation. Of the 15 that successfully completed their probation, 8 of them are still enrolled in our program. They don't want to leave us, which we know that we're doing a great job, so we like that. We also have 3 that have successfully completed their GED. We have 9 currently enrolled in the GED program. And as I aforementioned, we only had 3 to recidivate. So we really do appreciate this opportunity to stand before you and explain our program and what we're doing in our community to reduce crime and violence in underserved communities. One of our key partners is Everytown Against Gun Violence and Moms Demand Action. I want to personally thank Leslie Morrison, who is one of our key partners. She's in the Fort Bend Moms Division and does a lot of great work there. So thank you all for considering us to donate to our organization so we can continue to impact the lives of our young adults. The funds will be used for our mentoring program. Through mentoring, we take our young men to ATV riding. We go out there, have fun with them in the mud. It's one thing to help them transform their thinking. It's another thing to also do activities with them because we know that they're young adults. And so we went to the movies, and next week we're actually going go-kart racing. So again, it's to get them something to do during the summer so that we can keep them from being available to go do things that are negative to engage in crime and or violent behavior. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you, Carlton, for giving us your time and telling us about the Forgotten Third. Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service next to the name of the shared offering recipient, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously, and offering will now be gratefully received.
To be received. No? Oh, I'm sorry.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Please read the dedication to the offering in the order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you.
Our reading today is called The Blessings of Community by Douglas Taylor. Alone in the world, I was beset with frustration and anger at the world around me. So much injustice and hatred, so little peace and freedom. I longed to make a difference. I struggled against powers and institutions, but my actions seemed insignificant and my words were drowned out. Then I came into community, a religious community of hope and love. Here I found support and energy, vision and power, the authority of shared witness. And together, we change the world.
Thank you all for rolling with the changes this morning in the order of service. We have another change. So I'm going to ask you to open your hymnals to number 1021, Lean on Me. I think some of you might know the words to this. Please rise in body or spirit and join your voices with me. Thank you. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, sister, if you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. We all need somebody to lean on. We all need somebody to lean on.
First thing I need to do is to acknowledge that I'm leaning on these folks on the stage here, and Joe, and volunteers, and the staff who are not in the room right now. All of them are bringing forth what they need to do to keep me from fouling up terribly. But I was leaned on a little on Friday night when Dr. Boston called me and asked me to fill in for him today. My first reaction was a little bit of anxiety. What would be a sermon topic that I could put together in 36 hours? Well, he suggested I might go ahead with a question box format, but I wasn't secure with that. I have never felt equipped to try to answer questions on the fly in front of 200 or 300 people. I just don't do that. I'm sure with his doctoral exam, he probably felt that he was open to the Inquisition and he would do it again, but not me. I would worry not only that my answers would be inadequate, but also that whatever I said would be boring. And I wouldn't like that to be imposed on me if I were in your place. So I decided that I would do more of what I usually do to find a sermon topic, which would be to refer to current events as a possibility and the calendar. But when I considered what current events have been lately, it seemed to me that we are overloaded with information about that, and you're not necessarily looking for my personal perspectives on elections and politics, especially since I'm not the minister serving right now. And as I see it, there's more than enough concern and stress going around every day this summer, especially after last week's performances every evening. So when I went to the calendar, my lifelong interest in both American and European history, which I've inflicted on many congregations over the years, and my perspectives on that come from that history consideration often suggest topics which at least fascinate me and which might be interesting to hear, maybe. First off, though, I wanted to acknowledge we are in Houston, and therefore today's date, July 21, has a strong association with the space program. As some of us remember, Neil Armstrong first left the Apollo 11 lander to set foot on the moon in the early morning hours with the words, "One small step for man." Some of us also remember it was 32 years later on the same date, July 21 of 2011, that the last space shuttle mission was successfully completed with the return of the Atlantis shuttle from the International Space Station, which is superannuated, which is to say old, and still orbiting the Earth today. But on a global scale, I found that 26 nations around the world celebrate national holidays in July. July 1st is Canada Day, some of us may know. July 4th, everybody knows, is Independence Day. And July 14, as I insisted on reminding you last week, was France's Bastille Day. But I was just reminded this weekend by someone who seemed to know that today is also the commemoration of the formation of the independent country of Belgium. And today I wore the colors of their flag, black, yellow, and green. Their stripes, they're vertical. But it turns out that there are folks celebrating by having waffles and Belgian frites right now while they're watching parades in Brussels and Liège and other towns in Belgium. The territory that we now recognize as the modern country, Belgium, was of course ruled by the French during the time of Napoleon because he ruled everything in Europe. But upon his defeat at Waterloo, which I think is in the Belgian territory in 1815, the southern territory of French-speaking Catholics was consolidated with the northern Dutch speakers under the rule of the Dutch king, a Protestant. But that did not end the ambitions of the new French king, Charles I, to reclaim the Walloon region dominated by French speakers. But on the death of the French king, I think it's Charles I, during the fall of 1830, a coalition of dissident Belgians from both the northern and southern and eastern edges of Belgium led a brief war of separation and independence from the kings of both Netherlands and France. And so in short order, their military efforts were successful in the context of the long-term European instability created by the defeat of Napoleon. And over the next several months, those founding fathers who had won independence saw that they needed a symbolic unifier who would be accepted by the other rulers of Europe and would also rule in such a way that would guarantee collaboration and balance between the three dominant cultures of French, Dutch, or Flemish, and German ethnicities and actual languages. And so without an equivalent figure like our own George Washington, they could find nobody who seemed appropriate in Belgium. So in what may seem to us to be a strange initiative, they systematically recruited an English-speaking royal who was not beholden to any of the other three. And he happened to be an uncle of Queen Victoria. So at one time we know that all of Europe was ruled by either children or relatives of Queen Victoria. And in this case, he took the throne of the new constitutional monarchy of Belgium. So this day, July 21, is the annual celebration of the 1831 coronation of Leopold I, the first king of unified Belgium, who had been a prince of Saxe-Coburg. And so, in Belgium, it is clearly illustrated the process of independence from the ruling monarchs in France and Netherlands and other invaders required an recognition of a common interest, a unification under an agreed constitution with a culturally neutral monarch. And so it is clear that interdependence, an acknowledgement of how they needed each other, preceded their independence. For Americans, as we know, the process of getting independence was more complicated, but it involved the same sort of recognition. When we, of course, used our name, the United States of America, we are acknowledging that it was coined by the founding fathers of our country during the time of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution which followed. Our own founding fathers knew that each of the original colonies which were settled and formed by the British through various investment schemes had always seen themselves as states independent of others. And so only by mutual consent could those newly autonomous units, like corporations, be merged and united while remaining semi-autonomous. They could only hope that their merger would make them economically viable and politically and strategically strong enough to resist external forces, especially the forces of the mother country, the then recently created United Kingdom of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. That was an acknowledgement of unity precedes independence. And so any one of the several economic crises and half a dozen declared and undeclared wars over the ensuing 75 years, the 1812 war with Britain, the France war, with the wars with Mexico, with the pirates in the Mediterranean, and the various insurrections and other internal strife, which was followed by the Civil War to prove their interdependence, could have extinguished their so-called independence. The affirmation of the Union itself in the Civil War was a profound example of that essential truth. And so as we think about it, the adjective united thereby reflected the interdependence of their otherwise weaker and historically and potentially permanently warring neighbors with each other. To change the direction of this talk just a little bit, many years ago when I was an undergraduate at the Institute on Main Street, which is now recognized as a university, I skipped the intro course on economics, which I thought would be boring, in favor of a more attractive course for a globalist like me called International Economics. It was taught by a young and enthusiastic professor named Gordon Smith. And as I recall, we got a full dose of Keynesian theories and many graphic illustrations of how price and demand curves must intersect or nothing would happen. Along with those theories, though, we had extensive readings on how free trade could allow for comparative advantage, in which, in theory, could work to maximize mutual benefits across national and regional borders. Briefly, not to take it on a dissertation, those regions and nations which have natural resources like Texas oil, or water, or climate, or fertile soils, or other minerals, or, as in South Africa, diamonds, should be able to leverage those resources by open market exchange with nations which have a surplus of other productive resources or investments in manufacturing and those nations with surplus population resources. They should cross across borders, and so everybody gets the best of what's available. But of course, human capital in under-resourced but overpopulated areas is extremely cheap. And so, in one easy example, we were shown in that class how the movement of manufacturing from mills in Britain to the young northeastern United States, later to Japan, China, Mexico, India, Thailand, wherever, during the industrial and post-industrial periods was both necessary and ultimately beneficial process for all those participating over the past 200 years, as long as everybody is treated fairly. But in both the 19th and early 20th century, according to my professor, whenever new forms of protectionism or embargoes or other barriers to free trade become excessive, worldwide economic dislocations were bound to ensue, often resulting in deep recession, depression, and sometimes wars. This appears to have happened at least once or twice in each successive generation over the past 2 centuries, as the ruling classes of certain nations seem to forget the reality of economic consequences of what are essentially politically or strategically motivated acts of protectionism over and over again. And so, aside from the punitive actions or defensible national security considerations, which have been evident in our actions against Russia, recent administrations of border states, like, for example, Texas, have insisted on threatening or imposing restrictions on immigration or border restrictions with tariffs and other protectionism, which often undermine the many mutual arrangements built on the premise of maximizing benefits to all. That does not mean that all trade restrictions should be abolished. It means that they should be considered carefully as to their consequences for all nations. So now we are confronted with the ultimate reality that our interdependent worldwide economic and political systems are fragile and can be permanently damaged or destroyed by lack of foresight. I want to close with the discussion about the insight that brings to me from the recent online General Assembly for the Unitarian Universalist Association, where the proposed amendments to their bylaws in Article 2 were adopted only after vigorous debate for several years. The underlying rationale would be that there needs to be regular affirmation of our engagement as both interdependent and semi-autonomous, because we are voluntarily associating with other congregations across the world. And so I use that adjective semi-autonomous intentionally because we always need to remind ourselves to acknowledge that we have mutual agreements on shared principles, purposes, priorities, and now values about life in general and our lives as Unitarian Universalists. In our congregational polity, theoretically, we can put up all the boundaries and barriers we want to interchange of programs, ministers, and members. But especially in this fluid society, things happen which demand quicker and more coordinated responses for which we can rely on each other. We can lean on other congregations. We can lean on our association. And we know life and institutional life can be short. There are only so many ways that we can invent to do things, so many costs to bear in recreating, operating, and repairing all the systems we need over and over again. And just in the past 8 years, as Americans and as Unitarian Universalists, we have seen responses to threats to our shared ideals about how to lead, how to follow. And some of those come from our own Unitarian Universalist sisters and brothers and cousins. Responses to world events like the terrible tragedy of October 7 in Israel, and the response of Israel to the Palestinians. We have seen how different perspectives must be resolved over time, and some of that is outside of anyone's control. And now we also see a continuing debate about border policies and immigrant families and how those should be dealt with. And there are good Unitarian Universalists on both sides of every argument, unlike in Charlottesville. I believe that Unitarian Universalist activists were present at most of the demonstrations in both sides. And in these public arenas and in flaming wars on the internet, we share our values, our impatient idealism, our insistence that the life consciousness we share in our brief time on this one earth must matter, our insistence that we are part of an interdependent network of all existence. I saw a graphic illustration of that with a little short movie that my granddaughter and I watched in the Houston Museum of Natural Sciences just on Friday. It was called From Quarks to Quasars, and it showed how the actual structure of the universe is one dynamic oscillation and a completely perfect balance of so many different physical laws that are way beyond our comprehension in our daily lives. But what are the implications for us on this human scale about our own sense of shared identity? I think the new icon or the symbol of our shared values, which is centered with the word love, as you go around the circle of the various values, and I think they're altogether 7, on the top is the word interdependence. And I think it is moved from the 7th principle, acknowledging the interdependence of all existence, to our top principle, the recognizing how whatever we do, whatever we say, it affects others. And it continues to affect what happens in our shared world, where all of us must coexist for mutual regard, mutual benefit, and hopefully for mutual elevation to our highest consciousness of what life can be for everyone. Thank you for your attention this morning.
Before I announce the next hymn, I must give a moment to recognize the life and achievements of our Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She fought valiantly for the city, for the state, for the country, for the world, and we're going to miss her. And she was a friend of this congregation, so I just want you all to think about her and her family. At this time, take a look in your hymnals at number 1003. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Please rise in body or in spirit and join together in song. We'll sing each line one time and we'll go through it 2 times in completeness.
Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come
Please join me in reading the words for extinguishing our chalice printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction today is another selection adapted from my colleague and friend Douglas Taylor. For all the varied reasons that have brought us out of loneliness and into community this morning, we give thanks. For the blessing we each bestow on one another with our energy, with our compassion, and with our prayers, we give thanks. For the blessings we become to others in need, we give thanks, and always remember that we are not alone. We do lean on one another, and it should be so, and it will be so. Let us always begin with love. Blessed be.
Thank you for joining us. We want to know who you are and would love to connect with you. Please fill out the link to the online attendance form, and if you are on YouTube, click like and subscribe. If you're interested in joining our congregation, email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much.